Hello, everyone, and welcome to our lunchtime panel. We're delighted that you're with us today, and I'm going to hand straight over to Tom.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Educating Northants, and welcome to our lunchtime panel. We're here for the next 40 minutes talking with some brilliant people from across the county under the theme of celebration. Now, I have got an echo in my headphones, so could I ask the panelists to just mute themselves and see if that helps me out. So for those new to Educating Northants, we're a movement of local teachers and educators who believe in Northamptonshire, are optimistic and aspirational for its future. We're here today to celebrate the work of all educational settings in the county. For this lunchtime panel, I'm here with my partner in crime, Jennie Giovanelli, Principal of Kingsthorpe College. Jenny, it's great to see you. I've got a bacon sandwich lined up, ready to go after this panel. What's in your lunchbox?
I've got a ham hock salad and some orange juice with bits, Tom. Very important. Been really busy morning. I'm going to share a few of my highlights, and it'd be great to hear what you've enjoyed. It was brilliant, obviously, to start with Silhouette. What an amazing and talented group of young people. And actually, I think all of us here today, and as I can see people interacting throughout the platform, we're all here ultimately to make a difference to our young people, and to hear them start the day in such an inspirational way was just brilliant. I've loved hearing from Kath Kitchen on ethical leadership. I think that's really important, particularly as we're coming back from obviously a year like no other, reconnecting with what's important about leadership and kind of reconnecting with that purpose. Kat Pennington, who sessions on storytelling. As you know, storytelling, I love the power of story, so hearing from her perspective was really interesting. And then Poppy Holmes, who I know it's her first kind of foray into presenting in a conference space, and so to actually hear from her and some of the trainee teachers, I thought was brilliant. What have you managed to watch this morning?
Well, I enjoyed my ex-colleague Anna Carter's presentation on vocabulary. I got to work with Anna a bit on that just as she was starting that work in the trust, and so it was nice to see that sort of developed a bit further. I thought it was excellent. Really enjoyed Nick Hart's session on the codification of school culture, and I'm looking forward, I haven't got to it yet, to Christine Council's sessions, who, for those of you who weren't here at Educating Northants 2 years ago, she ended up running 2 sessions for us because somebody was ill, so she's done 2 sessions for us again today, which is great. So really looking forward to those. And finally, Silhouette, couldn't agree more. What a great way to start the day. So let's get on to our panel. It's a really exciting time for Northamptonshire schools at the moment, and there is some really transformational work that's taking place across the county. We've got some brilliant teachers and school leaders who we're hearing from today, and we've got big changes taking place in the county with new unitary authorities, and so a great time to be here today to celebrate the work of everyone involved in Northamptonshire schools. Our panel discussion today is on the theme of celebration. We often hear that the voices of students, parents and school staff aren't always heard on panel discussions at Edu events. And so we've worked really hard to bring together a cracking group here who will talk about their first-hand experiences and shine a light on their work from the front line. We've got here, let's wave as I introduce you. We've got Claire Wood, teaching assistant and parent, Karen Smith, a parent, charity secretary of Ups and Downs, and who runs the sleep service in Northamptonshire, Sleep Right. We've got gender board, primary school teacher, mum, assistant head at Simon DeSenlis, and last but by no means least, Cameron Alley, year 10 student at Kingsthorpe College. So Jen, let's go to you first of all. Jen, you've spent the last year, like all the teachers up and down the country, juggling all kinds of different challenges and responsibilities. How's it been?
just crazy. It's impossible to know where to start, really, and hard to believe that it's been a whole year. So lots of chat this week, oh, do you remember this year? And it feels like it's gone incredibly quickly, but it's also quite hard to remember what normal is as well. And we've talked lots about that at school as well. And so unpredictable and challenging and exciting at times as well. And very kind of proud of the journey we've been on as well. And also out of control, which, you know me, Tom, you've worked with me, I'm not good at out of control. And I think that's been something that actually teachers aren't great at, are they? We like predictability, we like being proactive, not reactive. And I think all of us have got a new set of skills probably, and resilience and adaptability, which we already had, but we've really had to use those in bucketfuls, I think, over the last year as well. And kind of that initial kind of shock and suddenness, and one weekend to move to online learning, and some children in school and some not, and kind of anxiety around the COVID element of it as well, and not knowing how long it would last, and that initial worry, and you know, that very transient period, moving into actually we're going to be here for a longer time than we kind of first anticipated, and then going back to that, actually we need to plan ahead now, and we're not just occupying time for the children for a couple of weeks. This actually needs a strategy, and moving to that too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can I get you to tell us a bit about the technology and remote teaching? That's been something that teachers have developed, you know, hugely in the last 12 months. I mean, you and the staff at Simon Dennis have been on a journey for a while anyway.
Agreed, yeah, and that was
helpful. How's that bit?
Yeah, helpful that we're already on that journey. So we're already a Microsoft school, and we use Teams, and I teach in year 6, which I think has made it quite a lot easier, that our children were used to using Teams. We set their homework on Teams as well, so we didn't have that kind of accessibility issue. However, setting weekly homework was very different to actually all work now needs to be transferred across, and the marking and the feedback, and that was kind of hugely time consuming initially. And luckily, you know, Michelle at school is awesome, and we were constantly learning and firing questions at her constantly, and a lot of training was put in place as well. And it was terrifying initially, but it also got exciting. So particularly this period since Christmas, we've been recording and uploading lessons. We've used Padlet, we've had live meetings daily, we've used form and quizzing for assessment, and that constantly evolving and improving, while it was kind of scary, has been very exciting. And we've kind of used some of those things back in school as well. And I think that's important, not to think of this as this period of where it's been online learning and we're not going to take anything from that either, because we have learned, you know, lots of lessons that can be used in school as well. But yeah, I think our skill sets have just multiplied in the last year, and the children too. And that's some of the positives, isn't it? I know with my own boys, their use of technology has increased vastly due to this period, and that will stay with them as well, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. And there's this sort of renewed appreciation of and gratitude for teachers, schools, the critical role they play in communities and wider society. So according to a recent survey by Parent Ping, 2/3 of parents said they value the work of teachers more now than before homeschooling began. So when we look back at this period, what do you think we'll be really proud of as a profession, and maybe, you know, you more specifically at the school, in how we've responded?
Absolutely. So I think that determination, so that aspiration for every child to do well that we have, that kind of runs through our veins all the time, that's been more of a challenge, that we've still had that aspiration, but we've then had to work it. You know, they're sitting in very different situations at a dining room table or in their rooms, and trying to transfer that aspiration to them still, and kind of motivate them. I'm so proud of the team at Simon Dennis going that extra mile as well. So, you know, there's been doorstep deliveries, the parental support. Parents have found it tough, and we've supported families too, the problem solving with the technology, and that resilience and adaptability. And there's been tough moments for all of us, for sure. Anxiety around, you know, COVID and whether we can do this, and how tough it's been, but actually everybody's still worked together, and I think that's tough when you're not together. So we're quite a sociable staff. There's a lot of chat that goes on in staff rooms and corridors that we can't do anymore. We've got 5 different staff rooms that we're not allowed to kind of go in each other's, and it's not the same, is it, doing things remotely? But constant support of each other has made a massive difference, and that was there before. before, but I think people have leaned on that more as well, and that eternal optimism, which again, we might not have had that in the darkest hours of a Saturday night when you're trying to upload, you know, Monday's lesson and things, but I think we're coming out of this even stronger than we went in, actually, and you know, the development of new skills, people have carried on with their CPD, we've still done assessments, but on top of all of that, we've done all this extra as well, and we've just overcome every challenge. And I think probably it's just as well a year ago we didn't know that it was going to last a year and all the challenges we'd have, but there's not anything that's come up that we've not worked together to overcome. And it's great what you said about that appreciation. I think some of it's desperation from parents, isn't it, because they realize how tough it's been. And I must say, as a parent, I'm not great at year one phonics or, you know, motivating my 6-year-old. I'd much rather have 30 year sixes in front of me, and I have an appreciation, I think, of year one teachers now too, that I, you know, as a parent, but I think there is that we're all in this together, and we've kept saying that throughout, but I really feel we have been, and those relationships with children, and I worried about that as well, because so much of our job is social interaction, isn't it, and being in the room with children and bouncing off their ideas and things, and that's been tough, but we've just found new ways to do it. I think I'm gushing because I feel so proud and passionate about this as well. It's awesome, isn't it? We knew we had these reserves of resilience and adaptability, and they are called on at periods, aren't they, but nothing like what's been expected the last year.
Jen, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing that insight. It's really great to hear. Before we leave you, what's in the picnic basket this lunchtime?
So I've packed my family off so that I could have the peace to do this to the farmers market at Wootton. So I'm hoping nice things are being brought back from there.
Well, let's hope so. We're going to, so we've heard from a teacher. We're handing back to Jenny now. We've got a student here. We're going to hear the student voice.
Absolutely. And look, I sit here virtually with you as an incredibly proud head teacher. Cameron is a student at Kingsthorpe College, and I've seen lots of things in the chat this morning about how important it is to hear the student voice. And it's been really important to us, as you know, as the kind of steering group of Educating Northants, that we hear all voices, and that's been a theme throughout the work that we have done. So Cameron, it's interesting to see you, because I've never seen you quite so nervous, but you've got a lot of support, I can see from the chat, from a lot of your teachers who can't wait to hear from you. So we've just heard from a teacher's perspective. What's it been like for you as a student over the last 12 months?
So given the current circumstances, from my perspective, I think online and blended learning has been generally very good. The teachers have been very supportive of us trying their absolute best to get to grips with the new online platform, and always setting extra challenges for us. I mean, at the start of the first lockdown, everyone pretty much had no idea. And I'm sure we think that the students learning.
Cameron, I'm sorry, we're losing you. I think it might be your microphone that's bumping around a bit.
Oh.
Is it possible to see if you can switch to a different audio source? Let's have a go. It's been the story of the last 12 months, hasn't it? Tech issue after tech issue. Yeah, we've lost Cameron for a moment. Jenny, should we go to Claire while we try and get Cameron's
absolutely. Right, Claire, again, a huge thank you for joining us today. Now, you wear many hats. You are a parent, and you have 2 children. I know you're going to tell us a little bit about them and some of the additional challenges. You're a teaching assistant and an absolute advocate in Educating Northants. You joined us in 2019 for basically celebrating diversity and the power of individual student voice. So it's been an interesting 12 months, as we know. What's it been like for you?
Extremely difficult. This time last year, going into lockdown, I've got, as Jenny just said, I've got 2 girls. I've got she was coming up to 18, and she went to the Beehive in Northampton, and I've got a 14-year-old that goes to KC, and I work as a one-to-one, and I thought this was going to be really easy. I could do some homeschooling and it was going to be easy, and it wasn't. I would, as the lady said earlier, I would much rather be in a class of 30 children than trying to teach my own children. It was really difficult. And it was also difficult trying to balance, actually, obviously going into school, because obviously we'd still got workers in. Also setting work at home, making sure work was done. It was the most, and it's got easier as the time's gone on, because we've learned to adapt over the last 12 months. And I think technology has changed over the 12 months. So obviously, with my younger daughter, it's gone to more online live learning. So that was brilliant, because it kept her focused. She had to be online for 9 o'clock. She had to then go all the way through the day. So that's been hard. But my oldest one, she was shielding as well. So she actually didn't go out of the house for 6 months. So that made it really tough for us, because we were all conscious of what we were doing. It was bit of a difficult time.
Yeah, and I think, I've got three young children, and I didn't have that challenge of homeschooling. My husband had that, but I know I spoke to people at school that it's been incredibly tough. But give us some of the things. I know that particularly the work you do at White Hills, particularly the work that you the colleagues that you have, give us some of the things that have kind of really helped you as we heard from Jen, get through this, and this sense that we were all in it together, and that actually we rose to the challenge as parents and as professionals. Give us a flavour of some of the things that you've been proud of or kind of inspired by, I guess.
Obviously, yes, at White Hills, we came together quite quickly, and it was how we worked as a team. And we all came together from all the year groups. I work in year 6, but we all pulled together. Our head, Natalie James, was just amazing. She's been really supportive, not just to staff, to parents, to pupils. We didn't go down the live learning route. We actually have gone down pre-recorded lessons, but it worked for our school. And then, so we had the teachers at home doing the lessons, and then we had all the TAs in, running the key worker bubbles. It works really well. So I've been really proud of how we came together as a community. And as a school, the PTA came up with an idea, and we, within 24 hours, we had got out packs for every single family that belongs to school, with tea, coffee, biscuits. And then the staff rose to the challenge and hand-delivered every single package to every parent within the school community. So it really was a school community. But also, I feel for my own 2 children, having the support from both the school and the college that my oldest daughter goes has just been incredible during the last 12 months. And I couldn't have got through it as a parent without that support that I've received. And I know, especially with respect to Casey, I could pick up the phone at any time and someone would be there listening to me.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think certainly what we probably all have felt, that actually schools are so much more than a building, aren't they? And that actually what this has done is that sense of kind of collaboration that we talked about in the first panel, the kind of all pulling together and just making it work and being adaptable has been phenomenal. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about actually some of the kind of challenges in terms of obviously being a parent of somebody with additional needs? Because we've all, and I include myself in this, there's been some particular challenges for parents of children who have those additional needs. What's that been like?
That's been really difficult, because obviously for my daughter, routine is critical. If she goes completely out of routine, it's just she can't cope. So it was just trying to fit a routine. We had to put a schedule up every day so she knew what she was doing, when she was doing it. It has been extremely tough. It's been very challenging. We've had lots of behaviour issues over the last 12 months. The in and out of school and college has not helped either. It's just, and also as well, obviously with the council, obviously not being funny, parked the HCPs really, because she was at a special school. They just closed literally, so we were just sent home. It's been difficult. It's been an extremely hard, challenging year, but I'm hoping we're coming through it now, and we can look forward to what's to come next.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I always think when I speak with you is your absolute passion for ensuring that we treat children as children in a holistic sense, and actually here's your opportunity to speak to the county and the educators. Just give us a minute on kind of what your vision moving forward for children within Northants.
I mean, obviously we've spoken before, you know my views, and I'm passionate about this because I do feel every child is an individual and we should treat every child as an individual. And just because one thing works for one child doesn't work for another. And I think having the perspective of having a child with a special needs has made me realise that even more, that no child is the same. And it's a collaboration as well. School needs to be a collaboration between school and parents and with the child involved. So it's like a triangle. And we need to come together as a community and listen, because I think so many times, and I'm not trying to, we need to listen to what's being said. And I just think we need to sometimes refocus, because we are so focused on our grades and what grades we're going to get, and not every child's going to get their GCSEs, not every child's going to get their SATs results. And I think we need to not be so focused on that and perhaps have some more vocational stuff going on, and make them feel proud, even if they're not doing as well educationally. Make them proud so that they actually feel like they're involved. And I know, like, just quickly going back to when my daughter was at primary school, she couldn't sit her year 2 SATs. But what we did was, because she sat her year 1 SATs and worked at the same time as everybody else, because we wanted her to feel like she was still included, and she felt like she was doing, wasn't the same test, but she was still doing a test at the same time as everybody else. And that's, so it's just that inclusion, and thinking outside the box, that what is actually right for that child. Because you've got one chance at this education, and we've got to get it right. And every child, I want them to reach their potential and reach for the sky.
Absolutely. And look, thank you. I mean, I know you talk to you all day about this. That speaks to me in terms of, and speaks to us as a group of educators. And I can see from the chat, people actually absolutely agreeing about students being individuals. And here's an opportunity to actually think about what is education in its broadest sense, which I think is a common theme running throughout the whole day, actually, in terms of why are we doing this? Well, we're doing it to make a difference to our young people, whatever their ambitions are, whatever their needs are. It is about them as a young person and their voice. So thank you so much, Claire. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'm going to hopefully now, Cameron, go back to you, and let's try your mic and see if we've got less I don't know the technical term. Static is the technical term, apparently. Right, Cameron, can you give us a quick introduction to who you are and what it's been like for you over the last 12 months? Let's go again.
I'm Cameron. I'm a year 10 student at KC. Is that better?
Not really.
Oh.
Can tell me. I can just about make it out. Obviously, we really want to hear from you, Cameron. Like, we want to hear from the students. I don't know whether it's. I'm looking whether people in the chat can, whether it's too.
Cameron, should we try it like we did last night without the headphones, and we'll see if that's better. It was a bit crackly, but I think it might be better than it is now. Okay. Unplug headphones, says Freya in the chat. Thanks, Freya, coming to our rescue. While Cameron is getting his tech sorted, I'm going to jump onto Karen, because Karen, as Claire was talking, I think me and you were nodding quite a bit. Let's just introduce what we have in common. We both have 15-year-old boys with Down syndrome and various other challenges, and we well know the challenges of having them at home while school have been closed for the last week, as well as lots of the nice things that have come along with that. But it's great to have you with us today. Karen brings a wealth of experience to this conversation. She's a mum. She runs the Sleep Right service in Northamptonshire. She's also a founder and secretary of Ups and Downs, a charity supporting children and families affected by Down syndrome. So, Karen, we've heard from Claire about some of those challenges. How does that compare to your experience and the experience of those families within Ups and Downs? You're on mute, Karen.
Okay, hello.
We've got you now.
So I completely echo what Claire was saying, and I felt really touched by her journey, really, and it really touched me deeply. But it's been very tough for all of our families of the Ups and Downs charity. We support about 53 families throughout the county now, and I think it's been difficult in that many of them have had to shield, and a lot of our children are maybe more at risk of the impact of COVID, because a lot have quite serious medical conditions as well. They've struggled to get online food delivery slots. They haven't been able to go to their children's hospital appointments. Many have been carried out by phone, which lots of parents aren't comfortable doing. And of course, like Claire said, you know, the frustrations of our children being out of routine has led to a lot of challenging behaviour, and that's impacted, you know, on the parents' perhaps mental health and well-being. Also, some of them would have been furloughed, so not being able to work, leading to hardship within the family home. So the impact has been huge, and you know, my son in particular absolutely loves being at school, worked really well at home, but he turned around to me and said just before they were due to go back this time that I'm really glad to be going back to school, mummy, because you know I need a break from you two sometimes as well. So you know, it just goes to show that, you know, it's not just about we're struggling to get away from them, but it's how they're feeling as well. And I think, you know, throughout the charity, obviously the needs of our children vary hugely from family to family. But, you know, the common denominator in all this is that, you know, our children have Down syndrome, their needs are very different, but they still need a massive amount of support and routine in their life. And we're doing what we can do as a charity to ensure they're supported.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And I think it's been really nice, hasn't it? You know, the sort of support that's been given to each other through the Ups and Downs WhatsApp groups, the Zoom discos, which have been great. What's the other types of things the charity's been doing in the background to support families?
Yeah, I think we've been working hard behind the scenes as trustees to try and come up with ways to support our families. You know, some are more vulnerable than others. And we wanted to make sure that there was a common theme to support them right from the beginning. So the first thing we did was we sourced fruit and vegetable boxes to be delivered to our families every week, which was huge for those families who were struggling to get the online supermarket slots. So it actually turned out that nearly all of our members were in receipt of these deliveries, and that went on for quite a few months. You know, we rely very much on the contributions of our friends and donators to try and help us, because, you know, we are totally independent. We have to fundraise to be able to provide these services to our members. So that was one of the main things we did. And we were also we're also very privileged in that we can provide speech and language therapy to our families on a private basis. So obviously that costs an awful lot of money, but that couldn't happen one-to-one during lockdown. So we were able to provide online webinars for our parents to attend, and also any educational staff that were supporting our children were also included if they wanted to take part. So, you know, it's important for us to not only support our members educationally and therapeutically, but also socially. So like Tom mentioned, we were doing Zoom discos quite regularly, and we also did some quizzes as well, because, you know, we have a fantastic live Facebook members page and a members WhatsApp group, and it's lovely to see the chat, so the parents are supporting each other. But outside of that, you know, as a charity, we felt it was paramount that we were providing these services to our members to make sure that we felt we were doing what was meeting the objectives of our charity, really. But obviously all this comes at a cost. We've had to cancel already 2 of our fundraising charity dinners with we were very lucky to be welcoming Alan Shearer to join us on those occasions. He's an amazing man who supports our charity. So that's now been postponed once again to March next year, and fingers crossed that will finally go ahead. We just had a walking session for Ups and Downs, walking 21 miles to support World Down Syndrome Week, which was 21st of March was World Down Syndrome Day. So walking 21 miles to support that. That raised, I think we raised, do you know, I haven't even got the figure now. It's gone out of my head.
Over £5,000.
Over £5,000, which is phenomenal. And the other good thing about that was it was encouraging our children, our members, to get out and be active, which is what we wanted to do. It didn't cost us anything. They just went out and promoted it. And then
I think, Karen, one of my favourite moments from the Ups and Downs kind of catalogue of things that's happened over the last year was the Christmas party, like Zoom, and Santa arrived and started talking, and he was on mute, and you had like the whole sort of parents simultaneously was shouting at Santa, "You're on mute," and it was like the only in 2020 could this kind of thing happen. So there's like been so much going on, hasn't it, in there? I'm also really interested in the work you've been doing with Sleep Right. So that's the service for families of children with special educational needs and disabilities who have severe sleep problems. How has that changed as a result of everything in the last year, and what's that work? What does that work you're doing look like now?
Well, in March 20, we transitioned to working from home immediately. There was no break in service whatsoever. We can't break in service. We are absolutely, you know, overwhelmed as a service. We are so busy. So we just, instead of running clinics, we then started to do support at home via telephone or online Zoom or team sessions with our families. So no break in service whatsoever. You know, the impact of sleep deprivation is huge, and, you know, it impacts more on children with additional needs. A recent survey said 80% of children with SEN needs do experience some kind of sleep issue at some point in their lives. So it shows that the need is there. Lots of the new referrals coming in during lockdown were stating, you know, more so anxiety, depression, even self-harm. So it just goes to show that, you know, during those times, not being able to sleep was impacting on their mental health and well-being, and that is very much continuing. And it's interesting, the amount of referrals we actually have coming in from schools. It's one of the larger percentages of referrers coming in, just because, you know, in the classroom, these children aren't able to concentrate, they're falling asleep in class, their behaviours are just getting worse and worse. And a lot of that is down to the fact that they are hugely sleep deprived, which is why there is such a need for our behavioural support service in the county to be able to work hard with these families to improve the sleep issues that they're experiencing.
Thanks, Karen. It's fantastic work that you do through Sleep Right, and of course for families through Ups and Downs. It looks like we've got Cameron back, so we're going to third time lucky with Cameron. But before we do, Karen, what's in your lunchbox?
Oh, well, bottle of Prosecco if I'm lucky. And some smoked salmon and some sushi, because I'm carb free currently.
I just remembered, Tom, I forgot to ask Claire what was in her lunchbox. So I think before we go to Cameron, we ought to ask Claire what would be in her picnic lunch basket.
Well, I would have a bottle of Prosecco as well.
Enough said, Claire. Right, Cameron, let's try again. What we're going to do, Cameron, because I can see everybody, like, we absolutely want to hear your voice. We're going to give it one more go. If it doesn't work, what we'll do is we'll once the panel's over, we'll get back in touch and we'll record what we were going to talk to you about, so that we can upload it and we can still hear your voice, because absolutely critical that we hear your voice. So let's see, Cameron, give me a hello, and let's see if we're any better.
Hello.
We've still got some static, Cameron. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we catch up and we film, because I mean, and I know you obviously because I'm your head teacher, but like a hugely inspirational young person, and you've got so much to share, and I think it absolutely everybody wants to hear from you, so we'll do that. So Tom, I'm just thinking we've got a few minutes. There's been some themes that have come up in the chat, and it might be nice to just put some questions to the panelists. There's definitely been a thread around technology and making sure that we embrace technology, but that actually it remains inclusive, and we don't, I suppose, the danger of increasing any kind of digital divide and kind of widening the gap which potentially can come about. So I suppose I'm just wondering, Jen, from your perspective as a school leader, how actually technology can continue to be used, but that actually we make sure that it isn't something which impacts negatively and kind of expounds that issue.
Absolutely. And that was one of the first things that we did, that all of our devices in school were then delivered to the families that we knew hadn't got access. There were children trying to use phones. Interestingly, it isn't just those children, it's not just affordability, it was also because parents were working from home. And I think possibly we hadn't considered that. So we had a lot of children who weren't accessing their work until the evening because their parents were using the family laptops. So it was about that, even things like not setting a deadline on when work needed to be returned, or not saying, well, we're not going to feed back if it's not in by 5 o'clock in the evening. So that as well. So yeah, all of our devices at school were then sent home. So obviously there were kind of issues around that, but also a lot of donations as well. So Bugbrook Community Food Bank helped us. They provided some devices as well. We also had some donations from families. So there was that too. There was also kind of the technical need. So a lot of conversations with people about how to access the work as well, and kind of parent webinar type things as well initially. So yeah, and ongoing, because obviously we've now had those devices back, and it is meeting that need too, isn't it? I think it is easier. A lot of our families did have access and could work with Microsoft Teams. We also learned how you can run it through the Xbox and things like that as well. So it was just, and that was so kind of transient, that period of here's my problem, and lots of phone calls and emails, here's my problem, and then trying to meet need. Yeah, so it is important to continue with that, but acknowledge that there are kind of restrictions, aren't there? And every family was different.
And I think that's something we'll carry on learning, won't we, as we continue through. And I suppose the other thread of questions that has come through are around everybody, what you've said, Claire and Karen, around individual voices and children, and the kind of holistic view of children. That's really resonated with participants at the conference. I can see that from the chat. So I suppose I'd be interested in anything, it's really important we listen to the voices of young people. Are there any tips or any suggestions or any kind of practical strategies that you could give to school teachers, school leaders, about how we can really include and hear the voices of young people, particularly those who are perhaps more vulnerable? So, I mean, Claire, if I go to you first.
I think it is just listening and empathizing. And I've sat in meetings where people have just gone and just literally nodded at me, and I think it needs to be like I said earlier, it's got to be a two-way thing, and you've got to listen to the child, you've got to listen to the parent, but also I do think parents need to listen to the school as well, because, and as I said, it's a triangle, and all 3 points have got to come together, because we've all got to work together because to get the best outcome for that child's individual needs and to reach their potential, because every child has got the potential to reach for the sky and reach for the stars, and I'm so passionate about that nobody is left behind.
Absolutely. And Karen, you've got a rich experience of working with a range of families. Is there anything that you could share that, I mean, I'd certainly be interested as a school leader in some ways that actually we can help break down those barriers so we can hear the voices of those young people, and particularly vulnerable young people?
I think what I hear from our families especially is that differentiation is often difficult, and often they're not getting that right, because they're not understanding the individual needs of our children with Down syndrome. And I think, the frustrations then go home to parents, and parents can't support the child properly because they're not sure what's happening at school. And it is about communication a lot of the time, again, that they don't always get that right. But I think the biggest thing for me as a parent of Dylan, especially during the learning online during lockdown, is often that differentiation. They were not getting it right, and he's in a SEND school, but he's the only person with Down syndrome in his class, and he was struggling to sort of do the same as the rest, and it's difficult. I know it's a big task for teachers, but you know, when a child has an EHCP in place and it says what their targets are and what their learning objectives are, they need to be followed really close to be able to get the best out of each individual child.
It's such a challenge, isn't it? I mean, I think we've heard, you know, this balance of the challenges, the struggles over the last year, but also some of the incredible work that's gone on in our schools, in mainstream schools, special schools. And I think what's been nice in this panel is to hear a bit about some of those services, whether they're charities or other sort of services, and the critical role that they've played. And we know that there's always challenges around funding. And let's hope we can really sort of shine a light and celebrate the work of those groups. It feels like we'll need them even more in the years ahead. So, Jenny, I know you're going to take us on and look ahead to the later panel and wrap up, but I just wanted to finish by saying how important I think it is that we continue to hear the voice of students, the voice of parents, the voice of teachers on the front line in this debate. Obviously, there's lots of talk about catch up and recovery and, you know, what things schools need to do as a result of the challenges of COVID. Like, really important, isn't it, that we hear and keep the voices of those on the front line front and centre.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to echo what you said, Tom, I think that's, like you say, that's not just students, not just parents, not just school leaders. It's everybody connected to and with education within Northamptonshire. And I feel hugely privileged to work in Northamptonshire and really optimistic from hearing from a range of people. And I want to say a huge thank you to panelists. And as I say, thank you, Cameron. And there's lots of, we will get your voice out there. A huge thank you from Tom and I, because we feel really passionate about, as Tom said, hearing from the front line. And so it was really nice to hear your insights. Thank you. So we've now got the opportunity to meander our way through the next set of pre-recorded sessions. We've got huge representation across a range of topics from a range of people. So please do enjoy that next kind of block of sessions. And then we're back here in Crowdcast at 3 o'clock for our final live panel session, which is based around the theme of what's next, and that will be with Carly and Esther. So please enjoy the next 1:45, couple of hours, and we will see you back here at 3 o'clock. And that's it. Thanks, everyone.